Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Kari's Confessions, a nonprofit exec tells all. I'm Kari Anderson, your host and principal with Incite Consulting. My podcast explores the tools and strategies that help nonprofit leaders grow their impact and build resilient organizations. As always, I'm here to share some hard earned lessons and honest truths from life inside the nonprofit world. I spent 25 plus years in the nonprofit sector and leadership roles with 7 organizations. Now I provide coaching and consulting services to ensure that nonprofits like yours have the structure, systems, and practices to do your best work. Wherever I go, I continue to hear that nonprofit execs need a space to gather, to receive tools, feedback, and advice that encourages them to stay the course. It doesn't matter if you're in a village of 182 or a metropolis of millions, nonprofit work is both gratifying and lonely. I'm here to make sure that you have a chance to breathe, laugh, smirk, and get excited again about the important work that you do. Today, we're talking about something that every nonprofit does, but very few feel confident about: donor communication. And if you've been in nonprofit work for more than 5 minutes, you already know how this goes. You send the thank you letter, you post the annual report, you squeeze in a newsletter somewhere between board meetings, program fires, and whatever urgent thing just landed on your desk and is somehow your problem by Friday. And then, donors go quiet. And you're left wondering, what are we missing? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most donor communication is technically fine. It's polite, it's accurate, it's well intentioned. It just doesn't stick. So today we're going to unpack what actually does stick and how to build donor communication that creates real relationships, not just transactions. No fluff, just practical shifts you can start using right away. So first, I want to start with a mindset shift that changes everything. The goal of donor communication is not updates, it's relationships. But a lot of nonprofits treat communication like broadcasting. We did a thing. God knows I did that for years. We serve this many people. We launched a new program. Here's our gala theme. Those are updates. They are not connection. Connection is when a donor feels like they are in the story with you, like they belong here, like they understand what you're up against, like their support actually matters right now. And for that to happen, your communication has to consistently do 3 things: help donors feel seen, help donors feel confident, help donors feel invited. Seen, meaning you understand their values and motivations. Confident, that their gift is being used well and your organization is steady. Invited, that there's a place for them to stay engaged in a way that fits their life. And here's the key: a thank you letter can support that, but it cannot carry the whole relationship. So here's a hard but important reminder, one I wish I would have heard 20 years ago. Something I say a lot, and I mean it. A nonprofit is a tax status. It is not a business model. You still need revenue, strong leadership, clear roles, systems that don't fall apart when one person leaves. And donor communication sits right there in the middle of all of that. Because if your internal systems are shaky, I worked for several organizations were literally built on a deck of cards, your communication will sound shaky, even if the writing is beautiful. And many of us have very gifted writers. You might be one of them. If your board isn't clear in its role, your messaging will swing between, look how amazing we are, and please save us. Sometimes we say that in the same day. If your fundraising strategy is reactive, your communication will feel reactive too. So before we even can get tactical, it's important to understand that better donor communication isn't just about writing better emails. It's about building trust through consistency, clarity, and real relationships. So I want to share a couple of thoughts that I have about why thank you letters don't stick. Let's talk about the thing we all rely on, right? It's the thank you letter. And here's why most of them don't work as well as we think. They're often generic, transactional, overly polished, late, late, late. and focused on the organization, not the donor. So when that happens, the donor reads it and forgets it because nothing about it made them feel something or understand something. And that's the bar. If your communication doesn't help a donor feel something and understand something, it will not stick. So instead of asking, did we send a thank you? Start asking, did this create connection? So I had a great comm director when I worked for the American Heart Association teach me something called the stickiness framework. And ideally, right, it's to make this work practical. So there's a simple framework. Again, I cannot take credit for it, but I use it now all the time when helping nonprofits improve donor communication. It's called recognize, reveal, reinforce, request. Recognize, reveal, reinforce, request. You can use this anywhere: emails, calls, notes, newsletters, meetings. So let's break it down. The first, recognize. This is about naming something true about the donor, not flattery, not guilt, recognition. You're reflecting their identity back to them. For example, you're the kind of person who doesn't look away when things get complicated. Or you care deeply about making sure kids have a fair shot. That kind of language tells the donor, we see you. And that's what makes communication feel personal, even at scale. So number 2, reveal. This is where trust gets built. And it's where a lot of organizations hesitate. A reveal is something real, not just impressive. It might be a challenge you're facing, a decision you've had to make, something that didn't work, a moment that changed how you think about the work. Here's the thing. Donors don't need constant success stories. They need honesty they can handle, because honesty builds credibility, and credibility builds trust. Number 3, reinforce. This is where you connect the donor to something bigger, not just activity, but meaning. Instead of saying, we served 3,000 meals, you might say, because of you, we were able to respond within 24 hours when families needed help. Or, you're helping us build something stable, not just a short-term fix. That's what makes a donor feel like part of a movement, not just a transaction. Here's number 4, request. And finally, the part people often get wrong. A request is not always give again already. It can be want to hear more about what we're learning? Can I send you a short story once a month? Would you like to visit? The goal is simple. Keep the relationship moving forward without pressure. So I've yammered on about the thank you note and how it's not necessarily the greatest thing we do. So here's what to send instead. Again, practical things you can use right now. If thank you letters aren't enough, because we got to send them, right? But we have to think differently. What should you actually be sending? So here's a sample or simple manageable menu, right? So number 1, huge fan, the 48-hour touch. Within 48 hours of a gift, do something human. A short email, a voicemail, a handwritten note, a quick video, not polished, not perfect, just real. Number 2, 1 story, 1 point email, once or twice a month. 1 short story, 1 clear takeaway, 1 simple invitation. That's it. Simple is what makes it readable and memorable. Number 3, behind the scenes updates, quarterly. Share what you're working on, what's hard right now. We've got lots of what's hard right now, by the way. What you're building internally. This is where you sound like a strong operator, not a desperate fundraiser. Number 4, the board touch point. Yes, you're bored. Those of you that have worked with me know I'm a huge proponent of this. Once a quarter, a short note from a board member to a small group of donors. No ask, just appreciation and direction. This reinforces something donors care more about than we admit: leadership and governance. Number 5, close the loop. If you run a campaign, close it already. Tell donors what happened, what's next. This is one of the fastest ways to build trust, and it's surprisingly rare. So let's make this doable. At this point, some of you are thinking, this all sounds great, but we're already stretched. I get it. Most nonprofits don't struggle with donor communication because they don't care. They struggle because it lives in someone's head. It lived in mine. And when we leave, and people, we all leave at some point in time, everything falls apart. So instead of bursts of effort, you need a system. Start simple. Step 1 might be a 12-month communication calendar. 3 new donor segments, right? New, recurring, and major. 2 clear owners. 1 creates, 1 sends. That's it. The goal isn't more work. The goal is better work, the kind that actually builds relationships and revenue. So I have a pretty fervent belief that as much as systems matter, right? People matter more than platforms. Something that doesn't get talked about enough, right? Donor communication is a people problem, not a software problem. If your internal communication is unclear, your external communication will be too. If no one owns donor relationships, donors will feel that. If your team is burned out, your tone will reflect it, either frantic or overly polished. Healthy organizations clarify roles, address issues early, follow through. And yes, donors can tell. So here's your gut check. Before you hit send on anything moving forward, ask yourself, would I say this out loud to a donor I respect? Is this specific to us, or could it be anyone? Did we name what's hard, or did we hide it? Did we connect the donor to meaning, not just activity? Did we invite the next step that fits a real human life? If you can say yes to most of those, you're on the right track. So let's wrap this up. You don't need a perfect donor communication plan or perfect donor communications. You need consistent, human, trust-building touch points. That's how relationships are built. That's how fundraising becomes sustainable. And that's how you make a real difference without burning out your team or constantly reinventing the wheel. So here's your one small step this week. Pick 1 donor segment. Send 1 message that is real, specific, and invites connection. Then keep going. That's how stickiness is built. So thanks for joining me today for Kari's Confessions, a nonprofit exec tells all. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a colleague or board member. Make sure to follow me on your favorite streaming platforms, and for additional resources and tools, follow me on LinkedIn. You can also check out my website at inciteconsultinggroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.